welcome to all the Gen AI Rockstar students as we begin learning AI graphic design and video. Let's start with Module 1 of 17, Adobe Illustrator. Presented by Asia Pacific Adventures and Royal Oxford University.
First and foremost, what is Adobe Illustrator? Illustrator is a vector drawing software which, despite the name, is primarily used for graphic design. What is a vector? I hear you asking. Well, in design, a vector is an image that can be scaled to infinity without losing quality. It's the opposite of a bitmap image, like a photo which is made out of pixels and has a set resolution. But don't worry, you can still use bitmap images inside Illustrator. It's just not what it's best at. When you first open Illustrator, you'll be greeted with the home screen. There are a few presets to choose from, a list of recently opened files, and most importantly, the New File button. Upon clicking it, a menu will pop up with some settings you can customize for your new file, like size, measurement unit, how many artboards you want, and some advanced options like color mode. Quick tip: use RGB for anything that's digital, and CMYK for anything that will be printed. After setting everything up and clicking the Create button, you'll reach the most important part of the program, which is the workspace. Everything you see on the screen right now can be customized and moved around, every tool, menu, and panel. There are also different workspace presets for different workflows, which you can access in the top right corner of Illustrator. For now, let's select the Essential Classics preset, just so we're both on the same page. I think this preset is very good for starters. The workspace in Illustrator can be separated into different parts, and knowing them will help you understand the software. On the very top, we have the header. Here, you'll find all the menus. A lot of things in Illustrator can be done in several different ways, but more often than not, you can find what you're looking for in the menus. Down below, we have the control bar. It is one of the most helpful elements of the workspace because it is context-based, meaning its contents will change depending on the object or the tool you have selected. For example, notice how new options like font and paragraph appear when we select the text tool. Below the control bar, we have the document tabs. Each tab is a different file you have opened. On the left side, we have the toolbar, which contains all the tools in Illustrator. If you hover the mouse over a tool, Illustrator will show the tool name, its shortcut, and a small video explaining what the tool does. If a tool has a small arrow on the corner, you can click it and hold it to open up similar tools. For example, clicking and holding on the rectangle tool opens a menu containing similar tools like the ellipse tool and the polygon tool. On the right side, we have the panels. Illustrator has several different panels, and they're all used to perform different actions, like aligning objects, customizing gradients, and combining shapes. They can all be opened through the Window menu, and they are kind of a complement to the toolbar. Panels can be expanded or collapsed using the arrow symbol on the top right corner. On the bottom of the workspace, we have the status bar. It's not something all that important. It shows some info about the zoom level, selected artboard, and selected tool. And finally, in the center of it all, we have the artboard. This is where you will add elements like geometric shapes, text, and images. The white rectangle is the size you selected when creating the document, and more than one artboard can be created for a multi-paged file like a presentation. Now, I'll show you some of the most important tools and panels to really get you started. One of the bases of graphic design is geometrical shapes, and that's where we'll start. Let's press the letter M to select the rectangle tool. All the shape tools work more or less in the same way, so I'll just explain the rectangle. But remember, click and hold on the rectangle tool to bring up the menu with the other shapes. To create shapes in the artboard, you have two options. You can either click and drag and make the shape the size and proportion you want, or just click a single time, which will bring up a menu where you can input the exact size you want. When clicking and dragging, you can hold the Shift key to lock the proportion to a perfect square. This also works with the other shapes as well to create perfect circles or polygons. Now that we have something in the artboard, we can talk about the tool you will use the most, the Selection tool. There are actually two selection tools: the Selection tool, shortcut V, and the Direct Selection tool, shortcut A, or the black cursor and the white cursor. The Selection tool, black cursor, is used to select, move, rotate, and scale entire objects in the artboard. For moving objects, just click and drag them. For rotating, place the cursor close to the corners until it turns into this curved, two-sided arrow. For scaling, use these white squares around the bounding box of the object. If you hold Shift while scaling, you will also keep the proportions. Bonus tip: hold the Alt or Option key while dragging an object to duplicate it. Now, for the Direct Selection tool, white cursor, we have to first take a look at how shapes work in Illustrator. Any shape in the artboard is made up of points that we call anchors. Two anchors connected make a path, and when the path is curved, like in a circle, the anchor points will also have handles to control the curvature. And these three elements, anchors, paths, and handles, can only be manipulated individually using the Direct Selection tool. Let's draw a circle in the artboard. Press the letter L to select the Ellipse tool, then click and drag to draw a circle. Now, press the letter A to select the Direct Selection tool and hover the mouse on the top part of the circle until the anchor name pops up. Then click and drag to move only that anchor point. Cool, right? You might have noticed that the handles are also showing now. You can also click and drag them to change the curvature of the path. You can also click and drag on a path to move it, but it can be a little finicky. But what if you want to draw something more complex than just geometrical shapes? Well, then you'll use the Pen tool. With the Pen tool, shortcut P, each time you click in the artboard, you create an anchor point, which will be connected to the previous one, just like this. If you click and drag, you'll create a curved path. Clicking back on the first anchor will close the path and finish the shape. This tool can be a little bit challenging at first, and it requires a little bit of practice to get used to, but it's a super important part of Illustrator and you'll definitely use it a lot once you get the hang of it. Now, before we move on to panels, it's important that you learn how to move around the artboard, which, lucky for you, is super easy to do. You can move around in lots of different ways, but my preferred methods are either to hold the spacebar then click and drag, or to click and drag using the mouse wheel. For zooming, you can hold the Alt key, or Option if you're on Mac, then scroll with the mouse wheel. Now, let's see a few panels. The one you'll definitely use the most is the Color panel. It's already opened by default. Oh, and of course, some panels do not display by default all their options. Click on the sandwich menu on the top right corner of the panel and click Show Options. Now that's better. The Color panel is used to change the color of the shapes you create, both the fill color and the outline color, which you can switch by clicking on these two icons right here. Then, all you have to do is select the object and change the color as you like. The next panel is one that I use all the time, the Align panel. It's not open by default, so let's open it in the Window menu. The Align panel automatically opens the Pathfinder and the Transform panels as well. They are kind of a group. Let's drag this panel to the right side and dock it on the panel bar. The Align panel is pretty straightforward. Select the object you want to align and select the desired alignment, like center, left, or right. By default, when you select only one object, it will align to the artboard, but if you have two objects selected, the panel will automatically switch to align to the selection. Next in line is the Pathfinder. This panel is used to create new shapes by combining two or more shapes. You can unite two shapes into one, intersect the parts that are overlapping, or just divide everything into different shapes. It's really easy and really useful. And finally, the Properties panel. This right here can be your best friend if you get used to it. Just like the control bar, the Properties panel is context-based, meaning its contents change depending on what you have selected. In fact, the Properties panel is kind of like an extension of the control bar in a way. This is the only panel that I have expanded at all times, and it is truly a lifesaver. It can speed your workflow in so many different ways. The Selection tool, the most fundamental Illustrator tool and the one you'll spend the most time with. Shortcut is the letter V, used to make selections of entire objects, groups, and clipping masks, either by clicking or dragging. This tool is also used to move, scale, rotate, and round corners. The Direct Selection tool, shortcut is the letter A, used to select and move individual paths, anchor points, and handles. It also selects individual objects inside groups or clipping masks. If they have a fill you can click on. Rounding corners is also possible. The Group Selection tool, no default shortcut, used to select objects inside a group without having to ungroup them. The Magic Wand tool, shortcut is the letter Y, used to select objects with similar properties such as color and stroke. It selects any object on your document, including ones in groups and clipping masks. Options for the Magic Wand can be changed in the Magic Wand panel. The Lasso tool, shortcut is the letter Q. It selects any anchor points inside the path drawn, including from objects in groups and clipping masks. The Pen tool, shortcut is the letter P, used to draw paths. Each click adds a new anchor point to the path, and dragging the mouse before releasing the click will add handles for curvature. Clicking back on the first anchor will close the path. The Add Anchor Point tool, shortcut is the plus symbol. It adds a new anchor point to a path. The Delete Anchor Point tool, shortcut is the minus symbol. It removes an anchor point from a path. Bonus tip: if you hold the Shift key while removing the anchor point, the path will be recalculated to stay the same. The Anchor Point tool, shortcut is Shift-C, used to add, remove, or edit handles on an anchor point. Clicking on a curved anchor point removes the handles, and clicking and dragging adds them back. Dragging a handle with this tool will move it independently of the other one. The Curvature tool, shortcut is Shift-tilde. It is similar to the Pen tool but automatically creates curved paths. The Type tool, shortcut is the letter T. Click anywhere to add text. Clicking and dragging will create a text box. Click on top of already existing text to edit it. The Area Type tool, no default shortcut. Click on a path to create text inside it. The Type on a Path tool, no default shortcut. Click on a path to create text that follows the path. The Vertical Type tool, no default shortcut. Click anywhere to create vertical text. The Vertical Area Type tool, no default shortcut. Click on a path to create vertical text inside it. The Vertical Type on a Path tool, no default shortcut. Click on a path to create a vertical text that follows the path. The Touch Type tool, shortcut is Shift-T. Works similar to the Selection tool, but with individual characters on a text. Click on a character to bring up the bounding box, and then you can scale, move, and rotate it. The Line Segment tool, shortcut is the backslash. Click and drag to create a line. The Arc tool, no default shortcut. Click and drag to create an arc. The Spiral tool, no default shortcut. Click and drag to create a spiral. Use the up and down arrow keys to change the number of cycles of the spiral. The Rectangular Grid tool, no default shortcut. Click and drag to create a rectangular grid. Use the arrow keys to change the number of columns and lines. The Polar Grid tool, no default shortcut. Click and drag to create a polar grid. Use the arrow keys to change the number of subdivisions. The Rectangle tool, shortcut is the letter M. Click and drag to create a rectangle. Holding Shift will create a perfect square. The Rounded Rectangle tool, no default shortcut. Click and drag to create a rounded rectangle. Holding Shift will create a perfect square. Use the up or down arrow keys to change the roundness. The Ellipse tool, shortcut is the letter L. Click and drag to create an ellipse. Holding Shift will create a perfect circle. The Polygon tool, no default shortcut. Click and drag to create a polygon with all sides the same size. Use the up or down arrow keys to change the number of sides. The Star tool, no default shortcut. Click and drag to create a star. Use the up or down arrow keys to change the number of points. Hold CMD or Ctrl while dragging to change the size of the arms. The Flare tool, no default shortcut. Click and drag to create the light rays and the halo, then click on the desired direction to add the light rings. The objects created already have blending mode selected, so you can just place the flare on top of an image or an illustration. The Paintbrush tool, shortcut is the letter B. Click and drag to create a smooth path, more like a hand-drawn style. Holding Alt after you start dragging the mouse will create a closed path. Press the square bracket keys to change the brush size. The Blob Brush tool, shortcut is Shift-B. Click and drag to create a filled, compound path. New paths will merge with existing ones of the same appearance if they touch each other. Press the square bracket keys to change the brush size. The Shaper tool, shortcut is Shift-N. Click and drag to draw a rough approximation of the shape you desire, and Illustrator will automatically turn it into a crisp, geometric shape. Works for straight lines, rectangles, ellipses, and polygons. The Pencil tool, shortcut is the letter N, works very similarly to the Paintbrush tool. Click and drag to create smooth paths. Dragging the mouse close to where you started will close the path. The Smooth tool, no default shortcut. Click and drag over a selected path to make it smoother. It is also a nice way to reduce the number of anchor points. Path Eraser. The Path Eraser tool, no default shortcut. Click and drag over a selected path to erase parts of it. This tool is terrible to use. The Join tool, no default shortcut. Select two open paths, then click and drag to join them. The Eraser tool, shortcut is Shift-E. Click and drag on top of a selected object to erase parts of it. Press the square bracket keys to change the eraser size. The Scissors tool, shortcut is the letter C. Click on a path to split it at that specific point. The Knife tool, no default shortcut. Click and drag over an object to cut it. The Rotate tool, shortcut is the letter R. Click and drag to rotate the selected object. Clicking anywhere in the artboard will change the reference point of the rotation. Holding Shift will lock the rotation in increments of 45 degrees. The Reflect tool, shortcut is the letter O. Click and drag to reflect the selected object. This tool can be quite confusing. The easiest way to use it is to hold Shift and drag, observing the reference point. The Scale tool, shortcut is the letter S. Click and drag to scale the selected object. Holding Shift will lock the scale horizontally, vertically, or proportionally, depending on the direction you drag. Clicking anywhere in your artboard will change the reference point. The Shear tool, no default shortcut. Click and drag to skew the selected object. Clicking anywhere in the artboard will change the reference point, and holding Shift will lock the tool on the horizontal or vertical axis. The Reshape tool, no default shortcut. Click and drag on a path to reshape it. This tool is clunky and can add lots of anchor points. There are better ways to reshape paths. The Width tool, shortcut is Shift. W click and drag on a stroke do change its width in that specific point. The Width tool adds these handles, which you can move and edit whenever you want. The Warp tool, shortcut is Shift. R. Click and drag to deform a path in the direction you drag. The Twirl tool, no default shortcut. Click and hold to twirl the object around the center of the brush. The Pucker tool, no default shortcut. Click and hold to deform the path towards the center of the brush. The Bloat tool, no default shortcut. Click and hold to deform the path towards the outside of the brush. It's the opposite of the Pucker tool. The Scallop tool, no default shortcut. Click and hold to scallop the path towards the center of the brush. The Crystallize tool, no default shortcut. Click and hold to deform the object towards the outside of the brush, creating spikes. It's the opposite of the Scallop tool. The Wrinkle tool, no default shortcut. Click and hold to wrinkle the path by deforming it in a random way. The Free Transform tool, shortcut is the letter E. Selecting this tool with an object selected brings up a menu with 3 different options: Free Transform, Perspective Distort, and Free Distort. With this tool, you can scale, rotate, shear, and add perspective to any object. The Puppet Warp tool, no default shortcut. Select this tool with an object selected to bring up a mesh used to distort the object. The mesh has control points which can be dragged and rotated. They can also be deleted by selecting them and pressing the Delete key, or added by clicking on the mesh. This tool does not add anchor points, so it is limited to distorting only using the already existing anchors. The Shape Builder tool, shortcut is Shift-N. Click and drag through multiple paths to unite them in a single shape. Hold Alt and drag to delete paths. This tool works similarly to the Pathfinder. The Live Paint Bucket tool, shortcut is the letter K. Select multiple objects and click using the Live Paint Bucket to create a live paint group. After that, you can click on any enclosed path to paint it with the selected color. You can also select a color palette on the Swatches panel and switch between colors using the left and right arrow keys. The Live Paint Selection tool, shortcut is Shift-L. Used to select fills and strokes inside a live paint group. Each individual click will select either the fill or the stroke, and not both, like a normal selection. Hold Shift to select more than one stroke or fill. The Perspective Grid tool, shortcut is Shift-P. Selecting this tool brings up the perspective grid in the artboard. The grid angles can be adjusted with the multiple control points in the grid. While the grid is active in the artboard, objects will be created within a specific side of the perspective. The side can be changed in the icon that stays in the corner of the screen while the grid is active, or using the shortcuts, numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. To close the grid, select the Perspective Grid tool and click the X on the icon. You can also change the number of points of the perspective in the Perspective Grid menu. The Perspective Selection tool, shortcut is Shift-V, allows you to move objects inside the perspective. Moving objects with this tool will automatically scale and distort them to stay in perspective. While moving an object, you can also use the shortcuts 1, 2, or 3 to change the perspective side. The Mesh tool, shortcut is the letter U. Click on a selected object to create a color mesh. Each click adds a new point to the mesh, which can be painted a different color. The Gradient tool, shortcut is the letter G. Click and drag on an object that is painted with a gradient to adjust the angle and position of the gradient, as well as the position of colors and transitions. The Eyedropper tool, shortcut is the letter I. With an object selected, select the eyedropper and click on another object to copy its colors. If you hold the Shift key, only the stroke or fill color will be applied, depending on where you click. The eyedropper also copies transparencies and text properties. The Measure tool, no default shortcut. Click and drag to measure a distance in the artboard. The info panel will be opened. The panel shows the position of the start point, the width and height distances, the distance in a straight line, and the angle of the measurement. The Blend tool, shortcut is the letter W. Click on two or more objects to blend the shape and color between them. Objects are grouped after the blend is created, but can still be selected by using the Direct Selection tool or the Group Selection tool. The Symbol Sprayer tool, shortcut is Shift-S. Select a symbol in the Symbols panel and spray the artboard to create multiple instances of that symbol. To create a new symbol, simply drag the desired vector inside the Symbols panel. All the instances of the symbol will be grouped in what's called a symbol set. The Symbol Shifter tool, no default shortcut. With a symbol set selected, click and drag to shift the symbols inside the group. The Symbol Scruncher tool, no default shortcut. With a symbol set selected, click and hold on a symbol to bring the other symbols close to it. To bring them far apart, hold the Alt key before clicking. The Symbol Sizer tool, no default shortcut. With a symbol set selected, click to scale up the symbols inside the brush area. The closer a symbol is to the center of the brush, the more it'll scale up. Holding Alt while clicking makes the symbols scale down. The Symbol Spinner tool, no default shortcut. With a symbol set selected, click and drag close to the center of a symbol to spin it. The Symbol Stainer tool, no default shortcut. With a symbol set and a color selected, click on the symbols to paint them with the selected color. Proximity to the center of the brush and how long you hold the click affects how much they'll be painted. The Symbol Screener tool, no default shortcut. With a symbol set selected, click on the symbols to make them transparent. Proximity to the center of the brush and how long you hold the click affects how transparent they'll be. The Symbol Styler tool, no default shortcut. With a symbol set and a graphic style selected, click on the symbols to apply the style on them. Proximity to the center of the brush and how long you hold the click affects how strong the style will be applied. The graph tools. All the graph tools work the same way, so I'm going to explain them all together. Shortcut for the first graph tool, the column graph tool, is letter J. Click and drag anywhere in the artboard to create a graph with the desired size. A spreadsheet will appear where you can input the data that will be shown in the graph. You can also import data externally. The artboard tool, shortcut is Shift-O, allows you to create, move, copy, and edit artboards in your document. The Slice tool, shortcut is Shift-K. Click and drag on the artboard to create a rectangular slice. The artboard will be split into several chunks, which you can export separately using the Save for Web menu option. The Slice Selection tool, no default shortcut, allows you to select, move, and resize slices. The Hand tool, shortcut is the letter H. Click and drag to move across the artboard. You can also access the Hand tool in a quicker way by either holding space, then clicking and dragging, or clicking and dragging using the mouse wheel. In both ways, you'll return to the previously used tool once you release the mouse click. The Rotate View tool, shortcut is Shift, H. Click and drag to rotate the view in Illustrator. Holding Shift will lock the rotation in increments of 15 degrees. The Print Tiling tool, no default shortcut. Selecting this tool automatically turns on the visibility of printing tiles. By default, you will only have one tile in your artboard. To actually tile your document for printing, you have to open the Print menu and on the Scaling drop-down menu select Tile Full Pages or Tile Imageable Areas. This will tile your document in the selected media size. Hit Done. Now you will have multiple tiles, which you can reposition using the Print Tiling tool. The Zoom tool, shortcut is the letter Z. Click to zoom in, hold Alt and click to zoom out. And those were all 87 Adobe Illustrator tools. Many tools explained in this video have other features and functionalities besides the ones shown. Also, virtually every tool will change its behavior when you hold Shift, Alt, Control, or Command keys, so experiment with all of them. A lot of tools will also open up customization menus when you hit the Enter key with the tool selected, so experiment with that as well. We're going to start with the star of the show, the Pen tool. To select the Pen tool, you can use the shortcut P. The Pen tool is pretty straightforward to use. Each click on the artboard creates an anchor point which will be connected to the previous one. So, to get started, just click once on the artboard. Notice that a blue line is connecting the mouse cursor to the place where you first clicked. This line indicates the path that will be created when you click again. Let's make our next click, and now we have two anchor points connected by a straight line. And of course, a new blue line appears to indicate the next path. Straight lines alone can be used to create many things in Illustrator, just like the shadows of these mountains on this illustration. Notice how a small circle appears on the mouse cursor when I hover back over the first anchor point. This circle means we're about to close the path and finish the shape. You can also create open paths, and for that, instead of clicking back on the first anchor point, you can just press Enter or Escape whenever you're finished drawing. And since we're talking about straight lines, I have to mention one of the most important keys in Illustrator, the Shift key. The Shift key is a modifier, and it's called like that because it modifies the way in which a tool works. The Shift modifier is used to lock or constrain movement in Illustrator. For example, holding Shift while moving an object will lock the movement horizontally, vertically, or diagonally. Holding Shift while rotating an object will lock the rotation to increments of 45 degrees, and this works with the Pen tool as well. When you're drawing with the Pen tool, holding Shift locks the path direction to multiples of 45 degrees, making it easy to create perfect horizontal, vertical, or diagonal lines. That's also perfect for making the fold on this paper illustration in the next example. I'm just going to hold Shift while using the Pen tool and move the mouse cursor until the blue line snaps in the direction that I want it to go. Okay, enough about straight lines, because we're about to get curvy. And making curves with the Pen tool is pretty easy. Instead of just clicking to create a new point, try clicking and dragging. This will add handles to the anchor point, which you can use to control the curvature of the path. Notice how the blue line is now showing us a curve instead of a straight line. And the cool thing is that the Shift modifier also works with handles, locking them to multiples of 45 degrees, and that's perfect because a very common practice when drawing with the Pen tool is to always add the anchor points to the peaks of the curves, to the point where the curves extend further outside or inside. This way you can always keep handles vertical or horizontal, making it much easier to draw. If you make a circle with the Ellipse tool in Illustrator, you can see that even Illustrator itself creates anchor points and handles this way. I'm going to use this technique to draw this color palette, always placing handles on perfect verticals and horizontals. Do you see how easy it is to draw like that? You don't have to guess where the next anchor point will be, the drawing itself tells you that. Okay, making curves is easy enough, especially when the shape we're drawing is made out of curves only. But that's not always the case. What if we have a sharp corner next to a curve, just like in this cloud? How do we go about that? Well, then we have to do something called breaking the handles. Breaking a handle means that each side of the handle will move independently, allowing you to create a sharp corner right next to a curve. To break a handle, you need to use the anchor point tool. But wait, I have good news for you. When you're using the pen tool, you can temporarily select the anchor point tool by using another modifier, the Alt key. By using the modifier, you don't have to stop drawing, switch tools, and then go back to the pen tool. Just hold Alt and then click and drag the handle you want to break, adjusting it to the next curve. After that, just release the Alt key, and you'll be back to drawing with the pen tool, right back to where you stopped. If you're getting a little confused about modifiers, don't worry. The easiest way to know what a modifier does is to look at the status bar located at the bottom of Illustrator. The status bar always shows which tool you have selected. Notice how it changes from the pen tool to the anchor point tool when I press down the Alt key. Back to our illustration, I'll do this process of breaking handles for almost the entire path of this cloud, but when I reach the end of the last curve, instead of breaking the handle, I'm going to just delete it, since the next path is a straight line, and straight lines don't need handles. To do this, you can simply click again on the last anchor point, and the handle will be deleted. Then I can finish the drawing by going back to the first anchor point. If you want to break a handle after you're finished drawing, just select the anchor point with the Direct Selection tool, shortcut A, then select the anchor point tool, shortcut Shift+C, and move the handle just like before. Another very cool feature of the anchor point tool is the ability to add or remove handles from an anchor point. Let's say you have a curve, but you need a sharp corner instead, or vice versa. Just use the anchor point tool. First, select the tool by using the shortcut Shift+C. Then, to remove the handles from an anchor point and turn it sharp, just click once over the anchor point and you're done. To add handles and turn a sharp corner into a curve, just click and drag over the anchor point, always keeping in mind that you can use the Shift modifier to lock the position of the handles. I have a few examples here just to demonstrate how easy it is to work with this tool. Notice that I'm also occasionally using the Direct Selection tool to move and adjust the position of the handles, because as we've seen before, if we move the handle using the anchor point tool, we will break it, making each side of the handle to move independently, and I want these handles to move together. And talking about the Direct Selection tool, this is one of the most useful tools when Direct Selection tool working with paths, anchor, points, and handles. As we've just seen, it is perfect to edit the handles of an anchor point after you've already finished your drawing. You can just press A to select the Direct Selection tool, then click on the anchor point you want to edit and just drag the handles until you're happy with the result. Just like before, you can also use the Shift modifier to lock the position of the handles. The Direct Selection tool can also be used to move anchor points, and not only that, Control modifier, you can also do it while using the pen tool. Yeah, that's right, it's another modifier. You can access it by holding the Control key. So let's say you're drawing with the pen tool and you want to go back and change the position of a misplaced anchor point. All you have to do is hold the Control key to temporarily select the Direct Selection tool, then select and move the anchor points as you wish. When you're done, just release the Control key, and just like using the Alt modifier, you'll go right back to drawing from where you've stopped. Now, I showed you before how to make curves using the pen tool, adjusting handles and curvature tool, all that. But what if I told you there's an easier way? Well, this way is called curvature tool. With the curvature tool, shortcut Shift+tilde, you can just start clicking on the artboard, and based on the position of each anchor point, Illustrator will automatically create curves. This tool is perfect for creating smooth and organic shapes, but you can also create sharp corners using the Alt modifier. The curvature tool is way more intuitive to use than the pen tool, but it won't work for everything. Since it lacks the possibility to adjust the handles, some curves are just impossible to create using this tool. But don't worry, you can always switch to the Direct Selection after you're finished and adjust the handles as you see fit. Think of the curvature tool as something you use to create a basic shape, and then you use other tools to adjust the finer details. Okay, let's quickly go over two tools that, even though they have their use and importance, they are fairly simple to understand. It's the Add Anchor Point and Delete Anchor Point tools, shortcuts, plus and minus. These ones are pretty straightforward. With the Add Anchor Point tool, click on any part of a path to add a new anchor point. If it is a curve, Illustrator will automatically add handles to it or adjust neighboring handles as necessary. With the Delete Anchor Point tool, just click over an existing anchor point to remove it from the path. Now, you might notice that removing an anchor point changes the shape of the path. Duh, that's obvious. But there is a trick to prevent this from happening. The Delete Anchor Point tool actually has a modifier on the Shift key, and when you remove an anchor point using the modifier, Illustrator will adjust the neighboring handles to maintain the curve as close as possible to the original, which is pretty cool if you ask me. This trick is actually very useful when you want to simplify a path and reduce the number of anchor points that it has. And while working with the pen tool and manually creating your own designs is great, sometimes it's best to know when to take a quicker route, and we have two very quick routes in Illustrator, the Pathfinder and the Shape Builder. Apart from a few differences, they both perform virtually the same task. They combine shapes in all sorts of different ways in order to create new shapes. First, let's check out the Pathfinder, which is actually a panel and not a tool. To open it, go to the Window menu and select the Pathfinder there. Inside the panel, we have a lot of different commands that will combine shapes in different ways. For example, we can unite all shapes together in a single object, divide them into separate ones, or make an intersection. I find the Pathfinder and the Shape Builder to be exceptionally great to work with when you want to create an object that can be broken down into geometric shapes. For example, you can see that this heart is made out of 2 circles and 1 square. It's way easier to draw 2 circles and a square and join them together using the Unite function of the Pathfinder than to try to draw it manually using the pen tool. The same thing happens with this map pin icon, where we can unite a circle and a square to make the base shape of the symbol, and then use a second, smaller circle with the exclude function of the Pathfinder to cut out a hole in the center of the symbol. Similarly, this leaf can be created by using 2 circles, offsetted 45 degrees from one another, and combined using the intersect function of the Pathfinder. Okay, but what's the difference from the Shape Builder? Well, for starters, the Shape Builder is a tool which you can access through the toolbar or by using the shortcut Shift+M. Secondly, and most importantly, the Shape Build has a way more intuitive interface, and for some uses, it turns out to be easier and faster than using the Pathfinder. But that's something you'll only be able to identify by learning both tools very well. To use the Shape Builder, you first have to select all the shapes you want to combine. In this example, I have a lot of different shapes that we are going to use to create this cloud illustration. So I'll just go ahead and select them all, and then press Shift+M to select the Shape Builder. The first thing I want you to notice is that the mouse cursor has a plus symbol on it. If we hold the Alt modifier, it turns into a minus symbol. These are the 2 main functions of the Shape Builder, add and subtract. If we click and drag with the plus symbol, it'll unite the shapes together. You can see that, as I click and drag, the shapes I'm selecting get highlighted. When I release the click, they turn into a single shape. If we hold the Alt modifier, then click and drag, the same thing happens, but this time it will delete the shapes. If we use the Shift modifier with the Shape Builder, things can get even easier. Holding down Shift activates a box select function, where you can quickly select all the shapes you want to unite, or if you also hold down Alt, all the shapes you want to delete. Just be careful not to select anything you don't want by mistake. Illustrator has an overwhelming amount of shortcuts, 233 to be exact. Thankfully, you don't need to know all of them, but some are just essential, and in the long run, they can save you hours of work. So I selected some that I'll explain you why they're so important and also show you a few tricks about how to use them. All right? Let's go! Groups are one of the most useful features of Illustrator, and while you might think they're just there to organize content, they can actually be used to create specific visual effects. Some effects and properties in Illustrator are applied differently to groups than to single objects. Strokes can be moved behind the contents of a group in the Appearance panel, creating a single outline to the whole group instead of one outline for every object. Similarly, effects like drop shadow, outer glow, and inner glow also apply differently to groups, affecting the entire group as a whole. Transparency will also be applied to the group as a whole instead of every single object within it. But perhaps the single reason I use groups the most is to align objects to the artboard. Let's say we have some objects and we want them to be on the center of the artboard. If we try to align them when they are ungrouped, they will just get stacked on top of each other. But if we group them before aligning, the align function will treat the group as a single object, perfectly placing the whole group in the center of the artboard while not moving the objects within. Then we can just ungroup them if needed. The shortcut for grouping objects is Ctrl+G for Windows users and CMD+G for Mac. For ungrouping, Ctrl+Shift+G for Windows and CMD+Shift+G for Mac. The alternative way to group and ungroup is to either use the Object menu or the right-click menu. And since we're talking about aligning objects, this is our next shortcut. Unfortunately, Illustrator doesn't have shortcuts for aligning. Thankfully, though, the align commands are available through the Object menu, and this means we can assign custom shortcuts to them. And yes, I know you can align using the control bar or the align panel, but all the icons look so similar it always takes me a few seconds to find the one I need. And over the course of days, this seconds can stack to hours. So let's create new shortcuts. Go to the Edit menu and choose Keyboard Shortcuts there. In the Shortcuts window, change the displayed shortcuts from Tools to Menu Commands. Then navigate to Object and Align. Now, you can add whatever combination of keys you want. I like to use the F keys because they're usually bound to shortcuts in the window menu, and I, particularly, never use them, so that's fine for me. You don't have to add shortcuts to every single alignment option, but at least add to horizontal center and vertical center. These are the ones you'll be using the most. And don't be afraid to override an existing shortcut if it's something you don't use. You can always restore Illustrator's default shortcuts later if you need. When you're done, press OK and Illustrator will prompt you to save a shortcuts preset, so give it a name and then you're finished. Now, whenever you have objects selected, you can just press the shortcuts you assigned and the magic will happen. After a few days of using this, you won't be able to go back ever again. Trust me. But if want to restore Illustrator's default shortcuts, just open the Shortcuts window and choose Illustrator Defaults from the drop-down menu. Moving on, we have clipping masks, which are an essential feature in any design workflow. If you're unfamiliar with it, a clipping mask is a way to hide parts of the artwork using a specific shape, which can be anything from something as simple as a rectangle all the way to custom, complex shapes. To create a clipping mask, you need to select all the objects you want to clip, as well as the shape that will work as the mask itself. And Illustrator will always use the object that is on top of the stack as the mask. After you have everything selected, hit the shortcut Ctrl+7 on Windows or CMD+7 on Mac to create the clipping mask, and then you're done. If you want to release the clipping mask, you can use the shortcut Ctrl+Alt+7 on Windows or CMD+Option+7 on Mac. Now, a cool trick to create clipping masks using text. First, outline the text by pressing Ctrl+Shift+O or CMD+Shift+O on Mac. Then, transform the text into a compound path using the shortcut Ctrl+8 or Command+8 on Mac. A compound path is needed when you want to create a clipping mask with more than one object. Then, just proceed with the clipping process as usual. The alternative way to make clipping masks is to use either the Object menu or the right-click menu. And to make it easier to change the stack order of your objects, it's essential to make good use of the Arrange commands. In Illustrator, objects are displayed following a stack order. If one object is above the other in the Layers panel, so it will be on the artboard. To change the stack order, you have two options. You can either drag the objects up or down in the stack through the Layers panel, or you can use the Arrange commands. There are 4 of them. The first 2 are Bring Forward and Send Backward. These will move the object up or down in the stack, one layer at a time. To do this, you can hold Ctrl or CMD, then use the close square bracket to move up and the open square bracket to move down. The other 2 commands are Bring to Front and Send to Back. These ones will send the object to the top or to the bottom of the stack. The shortcut is similar, but you must also hold Shift. So Ctrl or CMD plus Shift plus close square bracket to bring the object to the top of the stack, and Ctrl or CMD plus Shift plus open square bracket to send the object to the bottom of the stack. The alternative way to access the Arrange commands is to use either the Object menu or the right-click menu. Sometimes working in Illustrator can get a little repetitive. Sometimes you have to create multiples of the same object, or just duplicate something a bunch of times. I get it, it's boring. That's where the Transform Again command comes in handy. This little-known command does a pretty specific task. It repeats on the selected object the last transformation you made. This can be moving, rotating, scaling, duplicating. Let me show you this in action. I'm going to move this object a few pixels to the side. If we now use the Transform Again command, shortcut Ctrl or CMD plus D, we can see that the action is repeated. And every time we use the command, it repeats it again and again, moving the same amount in the same direction. And it even works if we select a different object. Okay, that's cool, but kinda useless. Let's make it more interesting. Instead of just moving, let's hold the Alt or Option key while dragging the object. Holding Alt creates a duplicate of the object. And now if we use the Transform Again command, it repeats the entire action, creating a new duplicate every time, always in the same direction. Now we can select the entire row and repeat the process downwards. We drag the first time holding Alt and then press Ctrl plus D to repeat the action. Quite quickly, we've created a deck of cards. But what if we need to be more precise? Let's try working with rotation. I'm going to create a circle on the artboard using the Ellipse tool, shortcut L, then I'm going to select the Rotate tool, shortcut R, hold the Alt or Option key, and click once on top of the right anchor point of the circle. By holding Alt and clicking somewhere with the Rotate tool, 2 things happen. We open the Rotate window so we can precisely input how much we want to rotate, but we also change the reference point of the rotation from the center of the object to the place where we clicked. Now we can just input a rotation amount, let's say 20 degrees, and instead of clicking OK, we'll click on Copy. This will create a new copy of the object, rotated 20 degrees around the reference point. If we now select the copy and hit Ctrl or CMD plus D, it will repeat this process of copy and rotation. And just like so, we can easily create some very interesting shapes in Illustrator. The possibilities of this command are endless, but it might take some getting used to. The alternative way to access the Transform Again command is either through the Object menu or the right-click menu. Sometimes things can get a little messy in our file, so it's great to have a quick way to preview the things we're creating without all this stuff getting in the way. Thankfully, a few versions ago, Illustrator introduced Trim View and Presentation Mode, 2 amazing features to preview your work. The bad news, both of them don't have shortcuts. The good news, you already know how to create them. They're located under the View menu. My keys of choice are F11 for Trim View and F12 for Presentation Mode, but you can choose whatever you want. Let's see how each one works. Trim View simply hides everything that is placed outside the artboard. Objects are still there, you can still select them, but they are hidden so you can have a better picture of how the artwork will look when it is exported. Presentation Mode, on the other hand, actually turns Illustrator in a PowerPoint of sorts. It will make Illustrator go full screen, with the artboard taking up most of the space and hiding the user interface. It also prevents you from selecting anything in the artboard. Clicking anywhere or using the arrow keys will skip to the next artboard. One way I really like to use Presentation Mode is when I'm too lazy to export a design and send it for review. I just press F12 to go to presentation mode, use Windows Capture Tool to take a screenshot of the artboard, and then just paste it on Discord or any other messaging app. Expanding a vector object in Illustrator is just as useful as it is confusing, especially since we have two similar commands, expand and expand appearance. Let's understand what each one does once and for all. Both commands can be accessed through the Object menu, and in a general sense, they do the same thing. They convert appearance attributes, which are literally what the name implies, into objects. You can see an object's attributes through the Appearance panel. Each layer on the panel is a different attribute. When you expand a shape, the attributes, like strokes, gradients, effects, or a blend, will be converted to separate objects. And the only difference between the two commands is that expand is used when the object only has basic attributes, like fill, stroke, and opacity, and the expand appearance is used when the object has other attributes applied to it, such as an envelope distortion, a drop shadow, or a distortion effect. For example, let's apply a twist effect on this rectangle. Notice how I can still edit the original rectangle and the twist effect will adjust accordingly. This happens because the effect is applied as an attribute in the Appearance panel, and so the original shape is preserved. If we want to convert this effect into an object, or effectively apply this distortion to the rectangle, we can use the Expand Appearance command. Now, the effect no longer shows up in the Appearance panel, and we no longer have access to the original shape. It has been converted into its own object, made out of paths and anchor points. We can do a similar thing with strokes. If you have an object that has a stroke, you can convert the stroke into a separate object by using the Expand command. Just select Stroke in the window that pops up and hit OK. Both these commands don't have default shortcuts, so we gotta create new ones again. My shortcuts of choice for Expand and Expand Appearance are Ctrl plus Shift plus 1 and Ctrl plus Shift plus 2, respectively. Replace Ctrl for CMD if you're a Mac user. At this point, I believe you got it already. Today we're going to create a gaming logo in Adobe Illustrator. First, we need to create a grid. Grids are super helpful in logo design because they allow us to be consistent in size and spacing, and this is very important. A good logo must be consistent. We'll use a 12x12 grid, and we want each cell to be 50 pixels in size, which is a nice round number to work with. To do that, we'll use the Rectangular Grid tool, which is accessible under the Line Segment tool. Click anywhere in the artboard to bring up the Grid Customization menu, set the size to 600 by 600 pixels, the vertical and horizontal dividers to 11 and press OK. Now we'll turn this grid into guides so it's easier to work with. With the grid selected, align it to the center of the artboard using the Align panel. If you're missing any panel I mention in this video, they can all be opened in the Window menu. Then, ungroup all the shapes using Ctrl or CMD plus Shift plus G. Right-click anywhere in the artboard and choose the Make Guides option. The grid turned into guides, but they are still selectable, and this can be a little bit annoying, so let's use the shortcut Ctrl plus Alt plus semicolon, or CMD plus Option plus semicolon if you're on Mac, to lock them and prevent them from being selected. Now we can start to create our logo. First, we need two rectangles that are 600 by 350 pixels. See, this is why we chose a round number like 50 as the cell size for our grid. It just makes it very easy to create the shapes. Okay, select the Rectangle tool by pressing M, and instead of clicking and dragging to create the rectangle, just click once in the artboard, and this menu will open, allowing you to precisely customize the size of it. After the rectangle is created, press V for the Selection tool and drag the rectangle holding Alt or Option to duplicate it. Position the second rectangle on the bottom of the grid. This one will be the controller. If the objects are not snapping to the grid, make sure that Smart Guides are active in the View menu. Select the other rectangle and rotate it 90 degrees. To do that, hover the mouse close to the corner of the bounding box until the Rotate icon appears, then click and drag holding Shift. Holding Shift will lock the rotation in increments of 45 degrees. After rotating the rectangle, position it on the left side of the grid. Now we need to round the corners of these rectangles, and that is very simple. Select both rectangles, press A for the Direct Selection tool and drag the live corner widgets to the maximum. The next step is to change the colors of these rectangles. The bottom one will have no fill and a red stroke. You can change that in the color panel. We also need to change the thickness of the stroke, so open the stroke panel and set the weight to 50. Also, align the stroke to the inside. The rectangle on the left will have no stroke and a darker fill. Okay, now we need to make the shadow of the controller. We'll select the bottom rectangle and duplicate it, but we'll do it in a different way than we did before, because we need it to stay in the same place, so just select it, copy with Ctrl or CMD+C, and use the Paste in Front command by pressing Ctrl or CMD+F. It looks like nothing happened, but that is just because Paste in Front pastes the object in the exact same place. Now go to the stroke panel, align the stroke to the outside, then go to the color panel and change the color of the stroke to an even darker. With the shadow created, we need to cut some of these shapes out, but before we can do that, we need to expand these strokes. This just means transforming the stroke into a filled object. Select both strokes, go to the Object menu and click on Expand Appearance. You can see that now the strokes have been turned into filled objects. To cut out the parts we don't want from these shapes, we'll use the Shape Builder tool. Let's hide the guides so we can better see what we're doing. Use the shortcut Ctrl or CMD+semicolon. Now, select all three shapes and press Shift+M to select the Shape Builder tool. You can also access it from the toolbar on the left. You can see that as we hover the mouse over the shapes, they get highlighted. With this tool, we can remove, add, or combine these shapes to our heart's content. So let's start by dragging over the outline of the controller to combine the two shapes that got separated. Then, hold the Alt or Option key and notice how the plus symbol turns into a minus, meaning we'll now remove parts of the object. Click to remove the bottom part of the left rectangle, as well as the part of the shadow that is not overlapping the other shapes, since we just want the shadow on top of the rectangle. Okay, now we can turn the guides back on by pressing Ctrl or CMD+semicolon once again. The next step is to create the buttons. For the right side buttons, press L to select the ellipse tool and click anywhere in the artboard to bring up the ellipse menu. Each button will fill one cell of the grid, so 50 by 50 pixels. Make sure it is the same color of the controller. Move the button to its place, then make 3 duplicates by dragging the ellipse holding Alt or Option and position them accordingly, always paying attention to the grid. For the D-pad, press M and click on the artboard to create a 50 by 150 pixels rectangle. Position it on the grid aligned with the buttons and then round the corners to the maximum. Copy the rectangle using Ctrl or Command+C, paste in front using Ctrl or Command+F, and rotate it 90 degrees holding Shift. If you want, you can combine these two rectangles into a single shape by using the Shape Builder tool once again. Now, our logo is almost done. For the last touch, I feel like this corner is too rounded and does not resemble a heart, which is the intention of this logo. So what we're going to do is select the Add Anchor Point tool by pressing the plus key on the keyboard and add a new anchor point on the outside of the controller outline. Press A for the Direct Selection tool and move this anchor point to the corner of the grid. Now we need to get rid of this curvature, so press Shift+C to select the Anchor Point tool and click once in the anchor point. This will turn it into a sharp corner. Now press A again for the Direct Selection tool and double-click on the Live Corner widget to open the customization menu. Input 50 pixels as the radius and hit OK. Now, the finishing touch is to just hide the guides again, select everything and rotate 45 degrees. And then we're done.
Assignment 1, Adobe Illustrator. Create your own logo using Adobe Illustrator. It is very important for all Gen AI Rockstar students to remember that you must complete all your assignments in each module and email them to ROU Education to obtain the Asia Pacific Adventures Diploma and Royal Oxford University degree. Practice daily to become a pro, enhance your career and business opportunities with a better income. Yes, you can. Congratulations and thank you very much to all the Gen AI Rockstar students and to everyone who supported and contributed to this degree in AI graphic design and video skills project. Life is beautiful, and we wish you all continued good health and prosperity. Acknowledged by Asia Pacific Adventures. Recognized by Royal Oxford University.